I love co-op games. I love them because they force me to work with my friends. I love them because they can often complete a true power fantasy. And I love them because they show a reflection of the coldness of my soul when a particular random isn't pulling my weight. It's me, it's always me, I'm not pulling my weight.
Okay, let's kill him. Let's kill this guy. Let's beat him to death with hammers.
This comes as a surprise because if you're like me, you don't really like doing much of anything with other people. I'm kind of a loner, but not the cool kind of loner, the kind whose room looks like a nuclear wasteland.
What is up with the cup collection? Look at the amount of sauce he has here from like Chick-fil-A or whatever that is.
What are you talking? That's obviously
This is how my mom's.
But apparently, if you give me a lot of things to shoot at and a bunch of moronic idiots to help me, I'll have just a great time.
I'm calling you in and I'm running the other way.
Co-op games really let you play like you're overpowered. They don't curve your power or limit your abilities to make being your opponent fun. My opponent is AI. AI doesn't give a damn. Everyone can win in co-op games.
By them. Fuck off.
Well, I mean, they can't. They don't have to. Co-op games can push on the part of your brain that loves solving problems with other humans. My ancestors probably had similar feelings when they successfully hunted a mammoth or something, so I like to think they're smiling down on me now when I extract with all 4 players in Helldivers. So, let's talk about some co-op games, like, Deep Rock Galactic.
Why is there flying? No, I don't like flying mosquitoes.
Do your best Donald Duck voice. A lot of people have played this game, and there's a reason for that. Despite what certain human rights groups might tell you, children love mines, and guns, and giant bugs. And Deep Rock has all of those. It also has player classes as well. Classes are one of the many smart ways developers can encourage cooperation. In a game like Deep Rock Galactic, there are many things that need to get done to progress a mission, so classes divide all those things into roles that they fill.
Fortnite.
Importantly, this means it's impossible for one class to fill all roles. Deep Rock Galactic has 4 classes: Gunner, Driller, Engineer, and Scout. Gunner is for people who like to shoot big things with a big machine gun and play zip lines for their teammates. He does pretty insane damage and his weapons are some of the most satisfying to use in the game. Driller is my favorite class and I bet you can't guess what he does. Navigation through caves can be quite difficult, so he uses his excavation tools to clear paths and reach challenging placed ores and resources. His primary weapons, although very powerful, unfortunately can feel a little bit floaty. Flamethrowers, despite being infernal destruction incarnate, tend to never feel super great to use in shooters. And aside from that, his only weapons are a cryo cannon and some kind of eldritch booger launcher. He's still very fun though. Engineer is the next class, and he has intense defensive power. His guns aren't the most powerful, but he makes up for it by being able to place sentry guns that will do the shooting for him. I hate to say it, but Engineer has always been my least played class because I'm not the biggest fan of micromanagement in games. Constantly running around to refill my sentry's ammo was not super fun for me. At least he has the only way to build or create matter in the game with his platform gun. Scout is the final class, and he's for people who need a refill on their Ritalin prescription. His guns aren't super powerful, he doesn't really have any innate abilities to help his team, but he does have a goddamn grappling hook. In my book, this is fucking cheating. Giving a relatively underpowered class a tool so inherently enjoyable, so tantalizingly fluid, and somehow expecting public lobby randoms to select anything aside from it is what we call clinical insanity.
We're not telling any use anyway. Truth be told, I was just tired of looking around.
It's like giving a 16-year-old the choice between a 2001 Suzuki Esteem and the fucking ISS, and then being surprised when you start having more deaths above the Carmen line. I know entire games that have been saved by the inclusion of a grappling hook, so giving one class that item just means that everyone immediately wants to play that class. Even if he isn't that good, which he isn't, the careful balance of filling roles gets shit on when the only thing we seem to be filling is casts with our broken legs. Alright, well that took longer than expected. Deep Rock Galactic is a great example of class-based gameplay because all of the classes are remarkably fun to play and well-balanced for the specific roles they are designed to fill. There's an extreme intentionality behind every mechanic of the game and how it will relate to the class system, and class abilities can often be combined in interesting ways. Perhaps my biggest complaint with the game is that it gets kind of boring later in the progression. Deep Rock Galactic is all about unlocking new skills for your character and upgrading their weapons and buying them cool clothing, but once you run out of things to unlock, it can be easy to run out of reasons to keep playing. This can especially be a problem if you only really enjoy one or two classes because it doesn't really take that long to max them out. This, however, is not a unique problem, and even this next game I'm about to talk about has this issue. Warhammer 40k Darktide is a fun game that I never would have played if it hadn't been on Game Pass. It's apparently very similar to Warhammer Vermintide, but I wouldn't know because I never played it. I like Darktide, maybe not as much as Deep Rock Galactic, but I still really like it. The combat feels generally incredible, and there's a pretty large emphasis on melee. Really, the only games I play with frequent melee combat is Dark Souls and its whole family tree of games, so it's definitely a significant shift.
I just killed his friend, bro. Is he okay? Hello?
Oh! Get out of here, buddy. I'm more used to dodging and parrying, and although that is in Darktide, there's more weight in frenetic slashing and keeping large hordes stun locked by your unending strikes. It also has a class system that I won't talk nearly as much on, but the depth is still clearly there. There's the Veteran, who is your standard ranged type gun guy. The Zealot, who is your melee and crowd control guy. There's the Psyker, who is this like techno-mage type person, and the Ogwin, who is this big giant tank guy.
I was never book smart,
I'm a basic Betty, so I tend to play Veteran. Oh, and I know it's pronounced Ogre, and I was just fucking with you to farm comments. Each class has very interesting things going on, and the difference in how they play is greater than in a game like Deep Rock. I mean, one of the guys is a literal giant, and Darktide tends to play with things like max health differences way more. To be fair, Darktide is also engaging with way fewer concepts than Deep Rock. In Deep Rock, you have mining, combat, exploration, traversal, stock trading. In Darktide, you really only have combat. Deep Rock just has a greater number and variety of roles their classes can fill. Some classes can make it easier to see with bright lights, some can make it easier to cross gaps, and some can clear out natural hazards. There's much more each class can do than be more effective at killing a specific enemy type that they're naturally stronger against. Combine this with the fact that Deep Rock's levels are completely procedurally generated and Darktide's are not, and you get a gameplay system that feels much more zoomed in. There's actually two sides of this coin though, and due to the zooming in, I found Darktide's combat to be better than Deep Rock's. You are asked to play both at range and up close. The fights are made more fun and varied because all of your abilities are honed in on destruction. Boss enemies feel like they take greater coordination and teamwork. And there's greater enemy variety, and the way you respond to each enemy is more significantly different. Unfortunately, the game kind of trips up when it comes to some aspects of the co-op design. Things like ammo and consumables can only be picked up by one person per item, which leads to players trying to race through the areas to get to the loot before their teammates can.
This is mine now.
I suppose this is thematically consistent, and it's less of a problem when not playing with randoms, but it can lead to friction and players going against each other instead of with each other. Obviously, most co-op games do not have the aspirations of putting us in a socialist utopia where everything is shared. Even the best co-op games have some level of item scarcity. I just felt that sometimes Darktide could be a little heavy-handed with it. The soundtrack also kicks absolute ass and fits the game's grim and dark mood perfectly. Visuals were also never disappointing. This medieval fantasy sci-fi theme is really cool, even if I have no idea why, story-wise, it looks like this. The HUD and UI also conform to this design brilliantly. Even the item shop that seems incredibly, inspired does too.
Fortnite.
Did our father, the Sea King, rise from the depths hole only when he drowned himself? You're fond of me lobster, ain't you? I seen it. You're fond of me lobster.
I don't know much about Warhammer lore, but this game has definitely piqued my interest. This isn't really a gameplay criticism, but D-Rock doesn't have much of a story. You're just a dwarf who works for a massive interplanetary mining company who's frequently sent into highly dangerous work environments for nothing but a meager wage. And what sucks about this is that it's a pretty good foundation that's just never built upon. Who is this Deep Rock Galactic mining company? What do they need these minerals for? Where are they getting this seemingly infinite source of midgets? It's the Philippines. Darktide has much greater aspirations of having a story and building the character you create into it. Of course, it's stealing from 30 years of established Warhammer canon, but it knew to steal it. And the stuff it adds is pretty good too.
Me, not only type of all red.
Yes, yes, Slab. So many of you, and not one who can count the fingers on one hand.
Story is usually the last thing I care about in games, but I commend Darktide for really trying to place you into the Warhammer 40k world. Even if I don't really know what's going on, because learning Warhammer lore is... Hold on, buddy. Before we continue, have you been completely socially rejected by society? Are you tired of feeling alone, sad, and poor? Do you want something to truly reinvigorate your love for life that isn't highly dangerous narcotic substances?
Hey, Mr. White. Are you smoking weed? Oh my god.
Who's Jesse Pinkman?
Jesse
Pinkman.
He sells me estrogen.
If any or all of these things apply to you, then I've got something to show you. My second channel. Yeah, so I kind of fucking hate SoundCloud, so I've started uploading my music to a new YouTube account. If you like drum and bass, breakcore, fartcore, sharkcore, you will probably like my music. These days, I'm uploading more music than I am videos, so if you like the music that's playing right now, you should go and check it out. Links are in the description. You know how hard it is to fucking get this mic set up again after hitting it. The two games we've talked about so far have had classes, but as I said, that is far from the only way developers can encourage cooperation. Classes make it easy to divide team roles into distinct parts and make the identification of who fills what role quick and efficient. But what if the developers hand the reins to players? Well, many have elected to do just that.
Just let him out.
L ratio plus bozo.
The Left 4 Dead series is like the Lay's classic of co-op games. Everyone and their mother at least knows of it. It and its sequel are brilliant accomplishments in co-op design, and basically every game I have or will talk about in this video was inspired by it in some way. Valve, basically on their first attempt at the genre, blew it out of the park. It's simple and streamlined enough for practically anyone to be able to pick up and play it. It feels great, and the shooting is still impressive all these years later, and it actually asks you to work with your teammates on a deeper level. I'm mostly just going to talk about Left 4 Dead 2 because it's an improvement of Left 4 Dead 1 in basically every way, but Left 4 Dead 1 is still great. And you'll also have to excuse how egregiously modded my install is. As I said, the game does not have classes and instead lets players tailor their team role to their own content. There are different primary weapons which have different strengths and weaknesses, like one person might want to bring a machine gun for crowd control and another person might want to bring a sniper for taking out special infected. You have the choice between a melee weapon or a pistol for your secondary slot. Pistols being ranged weapons while also coming with infinite ammo, while melee is really good at keeping hordes back but kind of suicidal to use against anything stronger than common infected.
Go ahead, Mom. Take away my Xbox. Nothing you can do to unfuck the Thanksgiving turkey.
You have grenades which all serve different uses. The bile bomb is the best one. Don't fucking at me. For your health kit slot you can carry, well, a health kit, or a defibrillator you can use to revive someone after they overdose on McDonald's.
I'm gonna be a one-man cheeseburger apocalypse.
Oh, he's back. Or special ammo type boxes that you can pick up and then immediately place, because despite how cool flaming bullets are, nationalized healthcare will always be cooler. For your final item slot, you can either carry Flintstone gummies with fentanyl in them or a syringe of alligator testosterone, which makes you faster at the cost of making you sexually aroused by leaving your teammates behind.
Come on, Rick, raise me up.
No, I will not.
What happened, Rick? I thought you weren't a beta anymore. Ain't that what you said?
Any player can carry any of these, meaning they get to decide their own constraints. Want to be a short-range crowd controller? Bring an SMG and a fire axe. Want to be a long-range devastator that annihilates any special infected as soon as they materialize? Bring a sniper and Desert Eagle. Want to be a mix of both? You can do it. Of course, without classes, you have to spend a little more time organizing what everyone will use in a given game, but that flexibility gives you greater control of how you want to fight and adds to the pick up and play nature of it. The other ingenious feature this game basically invented was the special infected system. Some zombies, which have clearly legible and easily differentiated silhouettes, have special abilities. Chargers will charge you and pin you to the ground. Jockeys will jump on your head and control your movement so you get driven into a horde. Hunters will pounce on you and start ripping off your clothes, much like my girlfriend after hour 40 of my Fallout New Vegas binge. And smokers will grab you from afar and drag you away from the main group with their, member. Their large intestine, they grab you with that.
I'm better looks, Maxer, than you, Rick.
Once you get hit with one of these moves, the only way for you to be saved is if a teammate knocks you free or kills your assailant. This means that getting attacked by any of these guys while you're alone is basically a death sentence, and thus making you stick together. Those aren't the only special infected though. Those are just the ones that can trap you into requiring teammate assistance. The other ones, however, well, you probably still want help, even if it's just barely possible that you sometimes won't need it. Spares will shoot acid at you from afar, and when they die, they will drop a pool of acid at their feet. Boomers will vomit pure G fuel onto you, causing every porn addict within a 2-mile range to swamp your location. Shooting them will also cause them to explode into a cloud of gamer subs, meaning that you have to exercise some real trigger discipline to make sure you don't shoot them when they're near you or your teammates. Then there's the tank, who looks like what testosterone supplements say you will look like after 2 weeks of treatment. Fueled by nothing but a breakfast of cardiovascular disease-causing red meats and a daily dose of Anadrol, and the tank can throw large boulders, cars, and kill your average survivor in just a few hits. The appearance of a tank means all hands on deck for your squad, requiring everyone to lock in and destroy the tank before it destroys them. Then there's the Witch, who can arguably mess up your day just as bad as the tank. That said, you often won't have to fight the witch if you can just avoid her. Witches in Left 4 Dead actually are based on something in real life, that being women.
Woman, do you hear me?
Much like women, witches do not like being shot, and if they are not shot, they will simply just walk around and cry. Once disturbed, witches will beeline straight for whoever disturbed them and instantly kill them in one hit. Witches can also be disturbed by shining your flashlight on them or getting too close, but I didn't tell you this because I'm misogynistic. Witches are the second enemy who asks some trigger discipline of you, and requires you to actually turn off your flashlight for once. All of this adds up to make one of the most compelling co-op experiences of all time. The characters are very likable and entertaining, the gameplay is simple but addicting, and it just feels so utterly complete, like nothing more and nothing less could make it an even better game. Left 4 Dead just has it. Whatever that means. It feels exactly how slaying hordes of zombies with your friends should feel, as if my brain innately knows what that would feel like. It doesn't have microtransactions or skins or a battle pass, it's a return to classic gameplay, first and only experience. 10 out of 10. The next game I want to talk about is Outlast Trials. Outlast Trials is the successor to the original Outlast games, which were the epitome of style over substance. They were just jump scare simulators that were followed by the occasional chase scene or uncircumcised penis. To be fair, the overall presentation of Outlast, especially the first game, was very good, but the problem was that it just didn't have much aside from that. These games came out in the post-Amnesia era, where the trend in horror games was to put you in a dark building with a monster where your only means of defense were running or hiding. Except where Amnesia was difficult and complex, thus making it scary, Outlast was simple and easy. So, how do you convert one of the most brain-dead gameplay styles, stealth horror, to what's essentially the opposite, multiplayer co-op? That's what's so interesting to me about Outlast Trials, because they fucking did it! Now, I didn't really have any faith in them, so I was very surprised when I played this game and it was actually good. I'm gonna beat to death by random homeless people! I did not anticipate how much potential this kind of game can have in multiplayer. I was very pleasantly surprised. Now, was it scary? Shut the fuck up.
Are you talking to the dogs?
No, but neither were the originals, to be honest. I mean, sure, it was easy to overreact to for YouTube thumbnails, but the game's only trick was waving and screaming at you, and that got boring long before the credits rolled.
What was I supposed to do?
Probably the scariest thing about Outlast Trials is the player models, or the fact that the main enemies are New York City residents. He's on the Fent cart, bro. What is this shit?
He just goes and sits down.
What the fuck? Who do you think you are? Support! You bitch! You bitch! Fuck you, homeless fuck.
Oh my god.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. It's a multiplayer game. There was no way it was ever going to be scary. Outlast Trials also does not have classes. Instead, it has rigs. Rigs come with a variety of different abilities that can help your team, but each player can only equip one. You've got the stun bomb, which stuns enemies, a mine that blinds enemies so they don't know where you've gone, a healing gas that heals your teammates, and x-ray goggles that let you see where enemies and teammates are. The stun bomb is the best one. Don't fucking at me. All of these tools should be used in coordination with your squad for the best results. Outlast Trials also introduces immersive sim-like features. There's now lockpicking and health kits and door breaking. The door breaking specifically is really cool because they stole it from Deus Ex. There's no immediate downside to breaking down doors, except it makes a very loud noise that enemies will hear and it might alter their patrol patterns. Throwables can now be equipped like bottles and bricks that you can throw at enemies, and much like actual New York residents, doing so either gets them to back off or just makes them even more mad. Oh my god, just ate the bottle. Once again, the issue of players fighting over loot is still a potential problem. Outlast Trials somewhat curves this issue by making it so you don't really want to carry the max of one specific item type. The game's slower pace also makes it much more likely for randoms to realize you're at low health and give you their fucking medicine bottle. Much like the original Outlast games, there's a large focus on stealth, but now with the addition of more players, there's more options. Chiefly is distractions, where in Outlast 1 and 2, getting noticed was almost always a bad thing. There are sections in Outlast Trials where it can be very useful. Sometimes an enemy will be guarding a specific point or patrolling an area where you need to be, so having them follow one of your teammates elsewhere can be the best strategy. The game also plays with sanity in a much more interesting way than either of the first two entries. Your sanity, or insanity, is measured by a separate bar from your health. Your sanity decreases when you fall for certain traps or get attacked by certain enemies. You'll turn around and see an ominous figure just for them to dart away, and then you'll turn to your friend and say, "Did you see that?"
No.
From your friend's perspective, you look like you're actually going mad, which is just so fucking genius. Insanity actually changes the way you play and act into resembling that of an actual crazy person. All that's missing now is a truth social account and a fear of all things brown, and then the portrayal would be perfect. Once your sanity bar reaches 0, you start getting chased by this figure known as the Skinner Man, and to be honest, I think that's kind of lame. Running away from enemies is already a solid third of the experience, and I would have preferred something more unique, like dialing up the hallucinations even more. The game will also occasionally spawn slow enemies that walk and look just like your teammates, the only difference being a slight misspelling of their name tag. You get used to looking out for this as you play the game more, but that first time it gets you is always a bit of a jump. Let's go! I really like Outlast Trials, and I found it to be an incredibly unique game. I think it's a considerable improvement over both Outlast 1 and 2. By nature of being a co-op game, it isn't really that scary, mostly just thrilling, but it's still undoubtedly fun. Now I could end the video here, but there's still one more game I want to talk about. The game that originally sparked the idea for this video. The game that spread through my friend group like opium spread through 17th century China. I'm, of course, talking about...
Look at me, look at me. Do you see, am I like, looking like I'm holding something? Well, look what happens when I dive. Look what happens when I dive.
That's mine, don't take that.
Oh, man.
Did you call me back in, por favor?
Oh, guys, what are you doing?
Helldivers 2 is probably the best game of 2024 so far. I did not play Helldivers 1, nor had I ever heard of it until Helldivers 2 came out. Helldivers 2 is different from most of the other games in this video because it has much more of an old school approach to co-op. There are no special infected pinning you in place until you get rescued, or classes that put you in specific roles that you need to fill. There are simply insurmountable hordes of enemies, and the knowledge that you have no hope of defeating them all on your own.
That's 3, by the way. What? That's 8! That's 8!
This isn't to say that Helldivers 2 doesn't have strong co-op elements, but there's a reason that you get AI companions when you don't have real players in Left 4 Dead and you don't in Helldivers. The game is very much possible solo, if not significantly harder and less fun. Take for example stratagems. Stratagems are the main form of progression in Helldivers. They are basically orbital support that you can call in once you get onto the battlefield. You can call in sentry turrets, special weapons, mechs, airstrikes, cluster bombs, but most importantly, You can only bring 4 per person. One of the best stratagems you can get later in the game is the orbital laser. It decimates small enemies and big enemies alike, and it can also destroy enemy buildings to stop them from respawning. On top of this, it's highly targeted, so accidental friendly fire is rare. It's definitely S tier material, with its main drawback being that you can only use it a few times and the cooldown is one of the longest in the game. Oh no. So if you're not communicating well with your team and everybody throws their orbital laser at the same small outpost, all you'll accomplish is overkilling them to such a ridiculous degree that they'll become convinced that God is real and they did something seriously fucked up to deserve his divine judgment. This also means that none of you will have an orbital laser for quite a long time, and on higher difficulties, that alone could be a death sentence. Another example is the team reload mechanic. Some of the more specialized gear like the rocket launcher and autocannon require a backpack to be reloaded. You want at least one person using one of these because of the highly armored enemies that are simply immune to your pathetically weak firearms. The problem is that if you try to reload them yourself, the time it takes is very long and you can't move it all while you're doing it. The solution is to have a different player wear the ammo backpack. Using it, they can reload your weapon in less than a fraction of the time. You can practically turn the rocket launcher into a semi-automatic rifle doing this, laying down an ungodly amount of damage. If someone is willing to carry your ammo for you, well, you should just make like a hunter and start tearing off their clothes. Speaking of clothes, you should actually probably keep them on because of the bonus stats they give you. There's light, medium, and heavy armor. Light armor is probably the best. It lets you run longer at the cost of lowering your max health. Medium armor is good too, letting you run for a standard amount of time with a standard amount of health. Heavy armor is probably the worst, giving you the most health at the slowest speed. In Helldivers, if you're in a situation where you get use out of the extra health, you're probably already getting swarmed and you're about to die anyway. Armor can also have unique stats for it too. Some let you carry extra grenades, which is very powerful since you use grenades to destroy enemy buildings. Some let you carry additional stim packs, becoming the team's de facto medic and letting you roleplay as a doctor in West Virginia, giving out OxyContin to anyone with so much as a bruised knee.
The molecule in OxyContin is nearly identical to heroin. Do you think heroin is not addictive?
Oh, that's inaccurate.
Some have less applicable enhancements, like I never got that much use out of the bonus stealth rating, but that's besides the point. The armor looks really cool and helps you fall into whatever team role you've decided for yourself. And can I just say they fucking knew what they were doing with the capes? Capes are very cool.
Buddy, you think you look strong? You're wearing a cape.
We as a society should start normalizing the wearing of capes. Want to look cool while walking on a windy day? Boom, cape. Need to bundle yourself up in the cold? Boom, cape. Ran out of toilet paper while taking a shit? Boom, cape. I haven't even mentioned the live service type deal for this game yet. Now I hate live service games. Not because of what they could be, but because of what they often are. Helldivers seems to have a very good excuse to be one, however, and I've never seen any other game do something quite like what it's doing. Basically, each planet has missions, and as the missions are completed by players, the planet gets liberated. Once a planet is fully liberated, there won't be any new missions on it. If all the planets in a sector are liberated, then players get to move on to the next sector. Sometimes, at the developer's discretion, planets and whole sectors will get reinvaded. It takes thousands of successfully completed missions to liberate a whole planet, so it's nothing that a single squad could do alone. This really lets you feel like you're throwing your life away, dying in a pointless war, which, as everyone knows, is every American man's deepest desire. The closest I've ever seen anyone come to a feature like this is PlanetSide 2, except here it's PvE. Sometimes when new planets are liberated, there'll be a game-wide reward like every player getting access to the exosuit. It's like you're in a real war with shifting front lines and a constantly progressing community-made story. I mean, there's a reason everybody's joking about Malevelon Creek. I think another ingenious piece of design is how seemingly simple and approachable this game is. It's a fairly basic stone brick of third-person shooter gameplay that's been polished down into pure diamond. As you shoot bugs, pieces of them will be blown off until they're dragging themselves towards you. They'll be spewing up blood and smearing their own entrails through the dirt before they finally hemorrhage and bleed out. Lots of third-person shooters have dodge rolling, but in Helldivers you have a cool little dive to avoid damage that can both be cinematic and very goofy. At first you think, oh, I won't get much use out of this, and then you encounter your first charger and you realize why they put it in the game.
Oh no! It is the dive rocket launcher! Take action regarding that individual. I am the angry pumpkin.
Speaking of chargers, the enemy design and enemy variety is truly incredible. There's two different factions in the game, the bots and the bugs. Some enemy types are weak like this basic infantry dickhead, and some are strong like this literal tank. The stronger enemies almost always have weak points on their back, so you can have one player distract them while another sneaks in from behind. I generally found the bots to be much more fun to fight than the bugs. Bots can actually shoot back, and thus require a lot more strategy, where I often felt that fighting the bugs was just a game of running in a straight line and occasionally turning around to shoot. Combine that with the bugs' tendency to over-rely on slowdown mechanics like they're filthy Natasha users, and I quickly found my preferred adversary. That said, the bots have a notable lack of any super giant enemies. I mean, there are difficult hulks and tanks, which both require the right stratagems or tactics to deal with, but they don't have anything quite like the bug's Bile Titan. The Bile Titan is the one and only truly terrifyingly large enemy, and much like the Boomer, they can vomit straight G Fuel, except now it's much more accurate to reality. Your skin and vital organs almost immediately melt as it makes contact with you, killing you instantly. Boomer! I like Helldivers 2 and every other game I talked about today. They're all part of the reason that co-op is one of my favorite game genres. If you have any friends, you and them should go and check out the games I've mentioned. You know what else you and your friends should do? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've struggled with the motivation to make videos as of recent, but nothing is more motivating than watching that little number tick up. You should also subscribe to my music channel and follow my Twitter and join my Discord and all of that stuff. I'm sorry, I don't like reading these outros any more than you like hearing them, but I do like big numbers, and with your help, maybe I can someday make the number by the subscribe button into one of those. Big numbers, I mean turn it into a big number. Yeah.
Another day, another victory for the OG, taking down the sweats, the imposters among us.